And you brought up a brilliant comment with your tweet. I want to say, I'm still going to say tweet. We're going to TNA Twitter here, aren't we?
Oh, what poor Daniel Garcia. Like, you can see it in his tweets and his interviews and stuff like that. That is not a happy man right now in this company. But yeah, why are the JAS just wandering around as like this NWO B team? Hogan's fucked off to the Wolfpack and they're all arguing about who's the leader of the B team. That's what it feels like. Like, do you remember like back in the day when Daniel Garcia joined the Jericho Appreciation Society, and maybe we had some, me particular, had some misgivings about it. Like, okay, cool. So now Daniel Garcia, the shooter guy, is gonna wear a silly hat. And I was like, oh no, it'll be character building. It'll be good for him. And there were definitely good stuff in the early stages. I've said it before. I love that early. It didn't really lead into the sports entertainment stuff too much, but like when it felt like the Pure Division was going to be built around him and Wheeler Yuta, when Tony ROH started up, him as like that punk, I've got no respect for this Pure Division nonsense kind of guy. Like, there was a lane there, a serious lane to go down with him. Instead, he's done the jokey stuff with the hat. Now he's doing the jokey stuff with the dance. All the while, like, wasn't the story with Daniel Garcia joining the JAS supposed to be that, he was a real wrestler who was joining the sports entertainment group, and we got teased time after time that he was going to rise up and leave Jericho. Remember that whole thread with Bryan Danielson where he was going to join, he's going to join the Blackpool Combat Club, and Danielson was trying to get the wrestler out on him. That went cold. Then there was that point where there was a 4-way match on like one of the pay-per-views where like it seemed obvious that Daniel Garcia was going to be the one who was going to step up and have that, Willie won't he, cooperate with Jericho. Nope, that spot went to Sammy Guevara. Oh, when it came time for somebody to stand up to Jericho, nope, that went to Sammy Guevara instead of Daniel Garcia. And Sammy Guevara kind of, over time, played the role of Daniel Garcia, all the while failing his way through it. Didn't get over as a babyface, didn't get over as a heel, wasn't in the JAS, then he was in the JAS, then he was going to turn, and then he stuck heel, stick with Jericho, and then now he's a heel, but Jericho was a babyface. So like all that build up that Daniel Garcia was doing to rebel against this leader of the faction and have a babyface turn. Now the faction leader's got his own babyface turn now, and all the faction just wandering around just like lost puppies in their old JS gear. And Jericho gets to be the face, and they're just he's doing a stupid like feud now with 2.0 over whether he can do his dance or not at this point. Like, it's proper early WCW, like late WCW early 2000s type of stuff, isn't it? Where it's like Booker T fighting over the T. He's fighting over whether he can do his dance, and the JS are all knocking around, like I said on the weekend show, and they're like, they're knockoff JS gear that's just got the labels taken off it now. Like, what even is this at this point? Like, Daniel Garcia couldn't have had a worse 18 months.
You know what? This was the thing that we feared, and we feared it at the time when the idea of him becoming a sports entertainer. And the logic that you're always sold on is, well, he needs to show more of a personality. No, I don't necessarily agree with that.
Act, does it?
It doesn't mean he needs to be a comedy act. That's a very WWE way of looking at things, which has been an influence that's permeated this company. And now you've got the amount of producers who are from that world who believe that's the way that wrestling kind of should be done. I think there's a lot of that stuff that fills its way through to the final product. We see it with like Tony Storm and the like. Anyway, not banging on about that. The thing is here is he's just been wasted and forgotten about. And we really should be talking about, like you say, him defeating Jericho, because there was the genuine kind of crowd reaction of people watching Daniel Garcia. You've got to remember, he was just like on TV every week when he was first brought in, like Red Death and the rest of it. And then with 2.0, and you're like, oh, okay, this is like, they were like a kind of effectively a jobber faction, really, who are kind of like necessarily like elevated by Jericho. And we never got any payoff for it. And just this kind of reductive thinking. And instead, now we're in a situation where I don't care about Jericho. I don't care about Sammy Guevara. I don't care about their feud. I don't care about anyone else who was in the JAS. Like, I mean, just I'm amazed that Jake Hager gets employed. Like, at this stage, like, why is he there? Like, to wear a hat. It's like that kind of stuff. None of that should be on TV. That's where you get into your quality control. And you go, if you're not doing anything useful for them, let Daniel Garcia tour then. Let him do other stuff. Let him go to other places. I think that's where we kind of go. And then bring him back in when you feel there's actually something for him to be able to do, rather than, as you say, collecting him as a toy, because it's depressing for him, because he's not wrestling the kind of matches he had when he was first brought in, and he was being given extended matches against Moxley and Danielson and the like, and you're like, oh, okay, he's not there yet, but there's a story you could do with this. And then you had him and Wheeler Yuta, who also, I have to say, is part of Blackpool. He's in Blackpool Combat Club, but he's not really like a featured kind of character. There's stuff like they're people who.
I'm going to start on them, mate. Are they faces or the heels? Who knows? Depends on the fucking segment. But that's I'm getting up. You know, the tweet I did about it's getting a lot of it's actually not that much pushback, to be honest. Like, mostly people in agreement, and there's the odd person. Well, the Daniel Garcia dance is over. You know, someone literally has just replied to me saying that. Well, the dance is over, so you know he's clearly the most over of the lot, and that's due to that booking. Like, yeah, the silly dance is over. La Parka's silly dance was over. It's not being over, is it? Like, it's not. It's not him. The obvious story, which was, oh, you know, okay, yes, this we could, even if we disagree with it. This pure wrestler who's been put in the sports entertainment group, the obvious logical end to that story is he does the heel thing for a while, but eventually realizes, I'm a real boy, I'm a wrestler, and he fucking fights out and breaks out as the babyface and has his match with Jericho. None of that happened. Instead, Sammy Garcia got the role. Now the face-heel dynamic's all fucked up with Jericho and Sammy, and if there was ever going to be another payoff of that, for whatever reason, Sammy gets chance after chance, and Daniel Garcia at this point in his career. And it's like, it's had knock-on effects across. Not to turn this into a big AEW booking session, but like it's had effects across, or like a ripple across the company, because it bleeds into the Don Callis family stuff. Because like with that stuff, Jericho became the focused upon babyface in that dynamic. And weren't we supposed to care about Kenny Omega wanting to get his revenge on Don Callis? Like, that's partly Kenny Omega's fault. I couldn't buy less that Kenny Omega really cares about ever getting revenge against Don Callis. And that's just Kenny's demeanor for you, unfortunately, in general. But like, on top of that, shouldn't Kenny still be gunning for Takeshita? Wasn't Takeshita supposed to be the centerpiece of this whole story? Instead, somehow it's kind of Jericho and it's Don Callis, and it's not actually the wrestlers that we started this with, which would be Kenny finally getting another, you know, big singles match with Takeshita and beating him. You know, like, Takeshita's just fucking window dressing at this point. He just stands in the background while Don Callis gets himself over. Like, it's both of those stories, by being merged together, have just become a bit of a mess, really. And I don't understand who's supposed to get over at the end of it all.